Hi, I'm Michael Wargo, team pilot with Precision Aerobatics, and today we're going to cover something that I know a lot of you really would like to develop as a skill. I've done a bunch of videos on hovering and things like that. The one video I've never done is how to just lock it in. I didn't pick a very good day because it's a little windy here, but we're going to teach you how to lock the hover in and make it look like a truly controlled maneuver. You know, you see a lot of people hover, they go up top and they're up a little high and you see the plane fishing all over the place. Like technically they're hovering, they're not moving. But there's a big difference if you look at some of my videos or anything like that, when it looks like I'm hovering it with great precision. You've seen me hover it in my own house, inside the house and things like that, or in a very small space. Once you get this skill, you can hover it literally anywhere you want. And obviously I hover it so close and I grab it and stuff like that. That comes from just getting the plane locked in. So what we're going to go over today is how to lock in the hover. Okay, so here we go. Yep. Okay, I am using the Addiction XL. And the reason I'm doing this is because it's the easiest to lock in, number one. Number two, I'm going to do a video on locking it in and I don't want to look foolish, so I'm using something that is, really easy to do this with. So I would suggest you try to do it with a foamy and, planes that are the easiest planes in your arsenal to learn how to do this. So here we go. One of the keys is make sure you have enough expo, because what happens is if you don't have enough expo, the plane will just keep moving around so much that it's going to be really hard to find the exact center. The other thing that is just a basic of locking it in is that you are starting it dead into the wind. So if it's a wind down the runway like this, it won't be in front of you, so you have to move a little off to your right maybe, because I have the wind coming down the runway. And how you enter this particular maneuver, whether it's from a Harrier or an inverted Harrier, I always recommend you do it from a Harrier because it's the most stable. So if you watch as this plane comes up into that hover, it's very stable. And once I'm up, I just lock it in. Now, the wind is blowing it off the runway because it's just windy, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you one little trick that I like to use, which is once you get it up there, okay, make those big maneuvers first and then relax the controls for a little bit and just watch what it wants to do. There is a point where I'm doing very little. So your ultimate goal is to get to where you do very little as fast as possible. And that way you can see what its tendencies are, what it's going to do. So I'm up, locking the throttle, and try and get it to where I'm not using much controls, which is right there. Whoops. Again, I've got a little wind. So I'm going to bring it down for a second because I'm going to kind of demonstrate a little bit just by holding it. Okay, what we're ultimately trying to do is, again, it's a little bit of a system. So you get it up, big movements to get it settled. Once you get it anywhere near settled, do everything you can to remove your hands from the controls and watch. So depending on wind or other things, maybe it's going to want to fly out a little bit, right? So then you can just pay attention to that. You don't have to be globally fussing with it. So ultimately what happens is you want to stand it up, make those big moves to get it in that ballpark. And once you get the propeller in an area this big, where the nose is only going a little bit, stop and relax. Just take your hands off the controls for a second. With the exception of the throttle, it's not going to do anything that's going to hurt you. It's not going to fall, it's not going to do anything. And if it starts listing too much in one direction, just fly out. It's easy. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to show you what to do when it's when you're not able to, you know, really let your hands off the controls and have it controlled. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to try to get to that place. You see it's wigging out a little bit. Just let it go and just fly away. Action XL kind of locks in so slow and so quick that I think this is a little better example because things, it's just not quite so floaty and might be a bit more relatable. So we're going to fly the Katana here. Of course, this locks in really good as well, but it's just a little different. Not everybody has an addiction or something like that. Anyway, so like I said, our little technique is big inputs, then stop. Once you stop, then we could start adding those micro inputs. And that's what makes the hover come in and stay exactly where you want it to stay. Now you see I'm having to make big inputs. This is the whole point. Once it's up in the air, you see it moving? Get it to where it's at least somewhat, when I say somewhat stable, we have to look for the plane to be absolutely vertical. If it's not absolutely vertical, it's not time for the micro adjustments. So that's what we're going to look for. And even if it happens really quickly, like watch, I can get this to lock dead vertical pretty quickly. All right, there you go. And now I can just relax the controls and watch its tendency right now, what the wind is doing to it. I'm relaxed again. And then of course, you know, if it wants to roll, it wants to do anything it wants, just don't fight it. As a rule, there's really only a couple things we're worried about. Micro adjustments, and don't fight it. You know, going one side, the other, one side, another with big adjustments. And as long as your expo is set pretty well, you won't over adjust. Now, if you do not want to torque roll, you are going to have to fight the roll. And there's nothing that can be done about that. The plane wants to roll to the left. What I like to do, if I'm not trying to keep it stable in front of me, if I'm not trying to keep it stable dead in front of me, like that, and trying, like if I pretend I was standing right in front of it, you know, I'm fighting the roll, okay? But for the most part, what I like to do is pull the plane up and let it roll on its own. That is a torque roll, not an aileron roll. It's a torque roll. That means it's only rolling on its own. And that's, you know, controlling it through it is, you know, kind of a skill set on its own. You see it rolling? That's all its own doing. That is all the aircraft doing it completely on its own. You know, a lot of people consider, I'll show you, a lot of people consider this a torque roll. So I'm going to put it up, stabilize it, and then immediately throw the ailerons over. Sorry, that wasn't very pretty. I should have waited till it got a little more stable. I don't really like the look of that. That's why you very seldom see it. I have a few where I'm spinning the addiction really fast or something like that for some sort of an effect. But once I lock it in, I can help it. But I think it looks much better slow. I like to do these without using the ailerons to help because it's very natural. It's literally a torque roll. The ailerons look cool because it goes faster, but that's just my opinion. Now, if you have to learn to lock it in up high, I would suggest you still do it as close as you can to yourself, like out here. Bring it up, get it vertical, watch the power, and then small adjustments. You know, in my opinion, getting into a hover straight into the wind is so much easier. And for those that are pretty good pilots, I love getting into a hover from inverted. I think it looks twice as good. Now this is directly into the wind. You just have to watch your, well, the wind's blowing a little sideways. It kind of blew it a little screwy. But as we're getting down, just managing that throttle and standing it up slowly from inverted. I mean, it looks so competent. You see how nice that looks? Once you lock it in and you're just dead solid, exiting purposefully like this, awesome idea. It looks fantastic instead of flying up and away. Now the thing is, getting into a hover from a Harrier is another little kind of a tip to make your flying look good. I personally think getting into a hover from a Harrier looks better if I do it from like this, where the plane is coming straight down. Now you get into the Harrier and up. It looks, again, competence is a really big thing as far as how it looks. Same thing with inverted. Instead of like a long Harrier or anything like that, where it looks like, oh my God, okay, now I'm trying to set up, I'm working at it, here comes the trick. You know what I mean? And then going up. This way, if you just flop it over, pull it down, and pull it right up into your hover, again, it looks so much more competent, deliberate, and everything else. Okay, I'm going to give you one more little tip. And again, this is for more advanced pilots. If you really learn to lock in your plane, especially if I would only do this into a headwind because you do risk the gear a little bit, but I'm going to pull it up into a hover and land from my hover. Now this is a glorified Harrier, and then put it down. So if you're hovering it in front of you, as long as you can get into the wind, I can't stand on the runway at this club necessarily, but I could show you a little easier. So when it's standing in front of you, and just push it down into a bit of a Harrier, because you can't flop it. So you get into a little bit of a Harrier, let the wind keep it, and as soon as and just reduce the throttle a little bit, and as soon as you see the plane starting to settle down, it just takes the slightest little release of the elevator, and it will just land.